Good evening. This game comes to you courtesy of Gauntlet Hangouts. If you don't know about the Gauntlet, then you need to visit gauntletrpg.com and find out more. You certainly won't regret it. My name is Alan, and tonight I'll be facilitating a session of Monster of the Week, written by Michael Sands, published by Evil Hat. The game is powered by the Apocalypse engine, something for which we should be very grateful to Vincent and McGay Baker for. This one-shot is titled Protect and Survive, Casefile Ripon, for which I'm joined by two great players who will tell the internet who they are. So could you introduce yourselves and just perhaps tell the world how long you've been playing with the Gauntlet?
I'm Tyler, and I've been with the Gauntlet a little over 2 years now.
Thanks, Tyler.
I'm Mike, and I think I've been in for about the same amount of time. And this is my first time playing Monsters of the Week.
Great. Okay, so before we get into character generation, I'd just like to run through some things to ensure we're all three of us are on the same page in terms of the kind of game we're going to be playing. And to do that, I'm going to use a process common with the Gauntlet, which is CATS. Forgive me if this sounds like a script, but it pretty much is. So CATS is C for concept, A for aim, T for tone, S for subject matter. The concept of this game, it's based in the UK, where Her Majesty's Pursuivants have been protecting the realm since Elizabeth I granted them an especial charter. Today, the Percies, as they are known to those in the know, continue their war against the supernatural and the occult, routinely monitoring the media for patterns of unusual events to trigger investigation. However, in a time of recession and austerity, they increasingly recruit deniable irregulars to investigate those events for them. Aim of the session, as with any Monster of the Week game really, is to investigate and find the monsters, if they exist, and put them down. This pattern of unusual events is centered on the Yorkshire market town of Ripon. So the objective, the aim then, is to find out what's going on, determine if there are monsters at work, and stop them. Monsters, in my reading of it, is deliberately vague term, as it is in all Pursuivant briefings. Now, the tone. We're all here to have a good time, but I think it's important we have a shared sense of mood. I suppose that TV touchstones for me would be dark urban fantasy, supernatural, maybe grim. Personally, a late 90s UK show called Ultraviolet, which has no relation at all, I think, to a show that is currently running. Literature might give us The Laundry Files by Charles Stross. If you haven't read them, you certainly should. The Dresden Files, or any number of old school Gothic horror. Indeed, an early title for this session was Yorkshire Gothic. The tone then isn't gonzo, it's not comic book. It's pretty dark. Conceivably, innocents may die. In terms of subject matter, we're going to be playing to find out, so it's difficult to be specific. But adult and horror themes may be encountered, so we're going to be using some of the Gauntlet's favoured safety tools in terms of making sure the subject matter we're all comfortable with. Certainly we'll be using lines and veils. Now, my starting point for lines that we will not cross are detailed in the character keepers. You should find a tab there, Tyler and Michael. Graphic violence against children, graphic sexual violence against anyone, and graphic torture. Those things might be hinted at in terms of past events or as something that has driven some activity, but we certainly won't see any of that. Is there anything else that you want to add to those, guys? And if so, feel free to just type it into the lines section of the character keeper. Tyler, what about you?
I think that covers about everything for me. That seems to get me.
Okay, Mike?
Sounds good to me too.
Okay. In terms of veils, where I'll draw a veil so the detail remains off screen, is sex, really. I'm British and inevitably uptight. And so there'll be no descriptions of sex. Sex may happen, but it will, crashing waves, curtains drawn. Anything else that you want to veil, guys? Okay, I'll take that silence as approval. The other tool we'll be using is the X card. I think you are both familiar with it, but for anybody who might watch this, if you are disturbed in a bad way by anything that comes up in play, use the X card by crossing your arms or using the chat. Though I have to say, one of the things that I am slightly concerned about is that my focus may be on you, and I may miss something in the chat. So my preferred gesture would be to put that up in front of you, so it's very clear that you've called the X card. If you play the X card, we'll rewind. I won't ask you why you've played the X card, but I may ask for clarification to make sure I can roll back the action to the right point from which we can pick up again and avoid whatever it was that disturbed you. Is that okay with the pair of you? Yeah. Okay. So finally, the Gauntlet has an open table system. So not only does that mean that between sessions, if we were playing multi-session, the players in the game might change, but more importantly in this case, if you need to step away, please just mute the microphone, turn the camera off, go away, have a break if you need it, and then come back when you're ready. And it's fine if you don't come back. That's fine and dandy. So we okay with the safety rules? Yeah, I'll take those thumbs up and nods as approval. Thank you. Finally, the Gauntlet's inclusivity policy will be in use. One of the things that makes the Gauntlet such a safe yet exciting place to play. So, with the preamble completed, how are we looking in terms of character creation? Can I ask you to begin to fill out the character keeper? And I'll entertain our viewers by making faces or otherwise just filling in the gap. Professionally, I hate a vacuum, and I tend to fill it with waffle. So you get on with the characters. Mike, I think you were saying you were interested in the divine?
Yeah, that or the professional, but in the interest of keeping things moving quickly, I'll go for the divine.
Oh, no, by all means, if you play the professional, you will actually be a bona fide member of Her Majesty's Pursuivants.
Oh,
and
that's
if you survive enough time, you might get a knighthood.
Well, I didn't take the actual setting into account when I was going through these initially, so maybe I will do a professional. Oh, one thing I think I should. This isn't really a line or a veil, but just for the record, I don't like I don't do accents when gaming because I'm no good at them. So just pretend I'm speaking whatever accent is appropriate for whatever character I end up with.
Yeah, I invariably play an immigrant Brit in Gauntlet games set in the States. So yeah, don't worry. I'll hear whatever accent seems to fit the action.
Yeah, maybe I will. Oh, sorry,
I'll probably bring out my mangling British accent at least.
Yeah, I might do the professional because if we're gonna have I think that might be a good counterbalance to a skittish flake.
Yeah, I mean, who'd let him out alone? On the question of accent, I have an accent. My Welsh accent is likely to thicken if I get a bit of an adrenaline rush. So if at any point I'm not clear or I begin to gabble, please don't hesitate to just pull me up short.
I see you went with a shorter luck pool.
Yes, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Normally it's 7, but I think in a one shot, 7 get out of jail free cards is a bit too many. So
I wholeheartedly agree.
If it gets very hairy, then you can always attempt to convince me I should invent another one. Oh, I think I can tell you've played a flake before, Tyler.
I have, and the flake is my hubby's favorite. So I've many times dealt with a flake.
I suppose it's appropriate to mention that, of course, gun laws here are very different from where you are. So any handgun, in fact, any offensive weapon carried with no good reason is a criminal offence. So you might want to bear that in mind when things get a bit hairy. Typically, the discharge of a weapon will get a police firearms team on the site within 20 to 30 minutes. Although that could provide a very interesting diversion.
Yeah, that's actually having me think, give it a second thought to my playbook choice, because looking at the professional, seems that character's all about the heavy armament. And I wonder if there might be.
Well, before you discount him, one of the professional one of the jobs of the professional is to describe the agency they work for. And one of the options under that, as I remember, is that you can have formal ID, which would amount to permission to carry and use in defense of the realm. So if you had, if you took that option, then the armory could be used.
I see. Oh, yes, resources. Would that count as which of those items would that count as? Would that be official poll or recognized authority?
I'm just trying to remember. I think that there is a
well armed. Well, there's well armed as an option. I don't know if that's
yeah, but there's Tyler, you might be able to help me here. I'm sure that there is an aspect of this that says you have formal ID. Let me just check the sheet.
It's in the part where it says agency. It'll be right after your decide who you work for, and you go in there. A secret military ID unit, or you can arrange yourself to be working for a government agency, and then in that you would have, let's see, recognized authority would probably count for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would be that sort of thing.
I see.
Thanks.
Yeah, that helped. That definitely helps a lot, because I was considering a character, like some kind of character who would be able to pull off a nice, elegant, and discreet sword cane.
And am I right, Alan, that in Britain the military itself can act? It can be called in as police as well. Is that not true? I know in America there's a distinct separation.
There's a clear separation. The army tends to be pulled onto the streets only really in terms of civil emergency, so it would have to be quite wide scale. The escalation response would be Bobby on the beat, then a local county-based firearms team. It would have to be pretty widespread to get troops on the street.
But the where you're talking that fire response, those would be carrying weapons, and they could be carrying any sort of weapon, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I suppose I'm drawing from something that is so fictional that it probably shouldn't be used as a resource, like Doctor Who and Unit out there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, there are all those agencies that we love and that probably exist under the water somewhere, like Her Majesty's Pursuivants.
Well, I think I have mine all written up.
Yeah, I'm still on.
My advice on these is don't overthink it. Pull something that you think is interesting.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely doing. Yeah, I'm definitely doing the professional. I'm just. Okay. Yeah, that's ready. 3:30. All right.
Have to say, Tyler, your flake looks sufficiently flaky.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a little odd.
How discreet do we have to be? Is this like Hellboy working? Well, do we have to like make sure we're not noticed and make sure that no one ever finds out that monsters exist, or is it like Hellboy where stuff happens and we just do our thing and
that kind of boils down to how you want to play it. I think probably if you think of where Hellboy starts, which is he's supposed to be doing things quietly and then gets out of hand. So you could be responsible for bringing Her Majesty's Pursuivants to public attention.
Yeah, I've been reading I've been reading a lot of those the graphic novels and a lot of the BPRD novels, and I guess it's as the story progresses. This isn't a huge spoiler, but shit gets wide open to the point where it's basically everyone knows because the events escalate to like citywide disasters. So there's no hiding that. So that's why I was just asking, how much.
Let's assume that we're at the early part of that arc.
Okay.
So the supernatural and the occult are not generally known, and part of your job is to take them out quietly so the public does not become either obsessed or upset.
Okay. Sounds good. And I'm working now. And going to meet.
There's several things I love about Monster of the Week, but I'll tell you, in design, one of the things I like most is that right next to your stats, it tells you what moves they work from or come from, and that is such a nice help.
No, I agree. The ones where you have to be reading the small print of a move and then flicking back, and simply in terms of choosing which numbers to put in which attribute stat. If it's very easy then to think, oh yeah, that's where I want to go with this character. No, absolutely.
Sam's did a great job designing this.
Yeah. Yes, and it was, I think I'm right in saying, my second PBTA game. My entry drug was, of all things, Saga of the Icelanders, and then this. And I like the investigation. I like the fact that combat in Monster of the Week can't go on for too long, because frankly, weapons are dangerous, and you have very little in the way of harm capacity.
And it's held up well, even though it's one of the earliest Powered by the Apocalypse games, and it's really held up. Saga's excellent game too.
I think we're about to get a supplement, aren't we? I want to say More Weirdness, but I can't remember. But I think it is due out shortly.
There is a More Weirdness that's already out, but I think there is a new one coming as well.
Speaking of stats, how do we fill in the initial attributes?
If you go to, I think it's on the play sheet. It says starting out or starting up or starting point. I can't remember.
Oh, there it is.
Word. Yeah.
Okay. You'll have your ratings that you.
Oh, okay. Great. Thanks.
That's something that kind of indicates that it's early on. That idea of 4 or 5 different patterns of attributes. Now you tend to be told have 2 in something and scatter the others about. But you know, we'll go old school here. Certainly, you know, I was looking for a PBTA to hack for the Dark Ages. It seemed the logical one to me because most of the games I found I was playing face to face using other systems turned into investigations. You know, I'm not a great dungeon crawler, and this has a nice mix.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I think it handles investigation really, really well. And it's deadly. It's a deadly game.
Yeah, yeah. So given that my tendency is to go for dark and gritty fantasy rather than high fantasy, it just hits the spot.
I also like that it assumes that, you know, with magic, everyone can do magic. I like its little magic system. I think it's clever. It's well made.
Yeah, it's simple and neat. I mean, for the purposes of tonight, you will all have been issued with a departmental phone, with a phone app that is what is used to cast magic. So that's a straight lift from the library laundry file. So credit to Charles Stross there. So yes, you want to cast magic, you run the phone app. It is slightly draining of the battery, though, so do be careful.
Alan, what's the name of the agency again? I just want to get that onto my character sheet.
You were muted, dear.
They're known to those in the know as the Percies. You'll find the full name, I think, on the briefing tab of the Character Keeper.
Ah, right. Great. Thank you. Ah, yes. Oh, here's a mostly 99% off-topic question. I heard that the term Percy is a euphemism in the UK for a fellow's private parts. Is there any truth to that?
that I have to say that's not one I've heard. You know, it might have been in the 50s, but it's not a recent one.
Okay.
But given that they've been around since the time of Elizabeth I, I'm sure there's something to it.
I asked because I had once conceptualized a golden age British superhero named Percy Pendragon, and my friend immediately brought that point up just as a heads up about what, you know, concerning whether I wanted to stick with that name. So that just occurred to me now.
Well, let's assume that the supernatural community still use it in that form.
And they will. Oh, great. You know, I can handle getting, you know, attacked by a vampire, but getting snickered at is just very insulting. So I'm picking well-armed and recognized authority for the agency's 2 stats, and I guess yeah, I guess if other players in future games and people pick the same agency, I mean, to the extent that it matters, of course, because I don't know if you're necessarily maintaining continuity between all these sessions, but you could always just assume that these attributes are specific to my branch of the agency, and if anyone wanted to run with a different vision of the Pursuivants.
No, you're in on the ground floor, Mike.
Okay.
Shape the agency. I think I might like to play some more games in this setting because I backed the Kickstarter of a game called Liminal by a British author that has. I'm not sure the game system is for me, but certainly the setting is really interesting. So I have a suspicion the Pursuivants may drop into Liminal at some point.
For the interdepartmental rivalry red tape attribute, does that mean rivalry within the organization? I guess it would yeah, as opposed to like between this organization or others. I think now that I think about it, I think the former makes more sense to me. I don't know if you have a sense on that.
I'm trying to remember. Is it intra or inter? If it's inter, then I think you can assume that there's a fair amount of rivalry and friction with the more traditional arms of the secret world. So MI5 in this country and MI6 for overseas.
I see.
In my kind of slightly sketchy background for the Percies, they did go through a fairly dodgy patch during the war when the Home Office and the Foreign Office wanted them taken under control.
Which war is that? World War II or one of the
yeah, World War II. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and it does say inter, so I will slap that on there onto my character sheet because I think that makes sense. Okay, so I've got my stats, I've got my so on and so forth. And onward.
Yeah, I feel a bit bad throwing you in the deep end like this, Michael. I'd have given you a week's notice on this just to let you have a kind of a fertile through the playbooks. But events kind of got in our way here today. But I hope Marco's feeling better.
Yeah, I appreciate you getting ready to run, being willing to run this early. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with the playbooks, but fortunately, I'm familiar enough with the system where I think it's relatively okay for me to ramp up and keep playing this. This is the game I've definitely been wanting to try out, so I appreciate that as well.
And Marco, hope you're feeling better.
We certainly hope Marco's going to wade through all 3 hours of this, just for his own good. Really, it'll help his recovery. Seems to me that Her Majesty's Pursuivants are fairly medieval in their approaches, heavily armed and take no prisoners.
That's how you face off against the supernatural.
Yeah, I always like to start with coming up with a good visual for the character that really helps me figure out where the stats need to go. And I'm actually about to send over a link to that image right now so you can get a sense of where I'm going with this. Oh, let's put it here too.
So is that how he looks when he walks the streets?
I was thinking about that, and it seems, I mean, it's not at all even remotely discreet. I was thinking that might have been like a picture from him in his like official military capacity, and how he looks now, probably not quite so overt. But I think it's really the face that does it. The face and the beret really do it for me as far as like making this character come together. So that's why I wanted to pick with this.
Ex-parachute regiment and a period in the SAS, I think.
Oh, that's what that fellow is. Okay, well, great. I jump out of planes. Sounds good to me.
They are the perfect pair, then.
Yep, I stuck an image there underneath my character for me.
So I think, Michael, you've got the agency. What you need now is it 2 or 3 special moves? 4. Goodness me.
Yeah, it's 3 plus the move that determines how it interacts with the agency, how it gets stuff from the agency.
So what are you thinking?
Well, I was looking at okay, just going back to my playbook here. Well, I'm trying to think of. I think mobility might be good. It's always good to have transportation.
I mean, for reference, if you look at the Ripon tab of the Character Keeper, you'll get some idea of the scale of your investigative site.
Oh, okay. I see. It looks like does this look like a fairly small to mid-sized town?
It is.
Okay. So, okay, that's a good point. It looks like everything's within walking distance.
Indeed.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you,
Alan. What a lovely stream set that is. That is very
that's like it's like we're playing a board game. It's like we're playing Arkham Horror or something.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I've used it face to face because it just gives people a feel for the place very swiftly, and to be honest, it structures play a little bit.
Bravo! I think that's excellent. That's really nice.
I'm going to leave no one behind, because I want to at least make sure my character has some capacity for keeping my cohort safe, my Mr. Prechill.
Yeah, and in my experience, the flake does need a minder.
Yep. I'm happy fulfilling that role.
Well, it is apparently I'm getting an enormous storm here. So I just heard house rattling thunder. So should something odd happen, it's not because I decided to dip out of the game. I'm hoping I'm not going to have any electrical problems, but just to let people know.
That's okay, Tyler. Yeah, if it begins to look a little bit like the Wizard of Oz where you are, then we'll keep our fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be having this sort of storm, but it has certainly gotten that way.
Increasingly, the world we live in, the world of the unexpected.
Exactly. And I live in South Carolina, which kind of goes from, I mean, it was in the 60s the other day, and now it's in the 30s. So we have rather extreme swings.
My geography is notoriously poor, but I'm placing that on the Atlantic coast, north of Florida, south of Washington and New York, yeah?
Yeah, I'm yeah, it's the old South.
And I'm in the DC area, so we're expecting some like heavy freezing snow. I think later today and tomorrow. So I'm sure the city's shutting down appropriately in a couple hours.
We get some snow. I love snow.
I just took Tactical Genius because I'm not very sharp, so I think Tactical Genius would be very good for this character. And finally, ooh, I like Bottle It Up. Yeah, let's definitely Bottle It Up. Move. All right, I guess gear I need to figure out now.
Would you like Alan to go on to say introductions while he's doing gear?
That's where I wanted. Well, I just want to try a screen share before I do anything else. Can I just try this? Did you see what I think you ought to have seen?
You had your castle up. Yes, it was showing it.
So, Michael, while you're just completing your gear, can you get as far, Tyler, as describing, catch his name, Preacher Prechill?
Absolutely. Preacher Prechill is he's classically sort of nerdy and nervous. He, as a young man, spent far more time inside reading than outside playing with the other kids. And his family had always sort of assumed that he was going to go into the clergy. And in fact, he did go to seminary. But while there, his studies tended towards the more unusual, the supernatural. And he began to, he especially enjoyed going down to the archives and finding the little, the tales of various oddnesses that were discovered, going through the old Catholic records, going through things, seeing the exorcisms, and he became fascinated with it. His professors did not think that this was an appropriate field of study for him, and by the time he reached his last year in seminary, it had become clear he was not going to take the cloth and was, in fact, probably going to he had reached a point of agnosticism, considering that all supernatural was one big holistic whole, and they booted him right out. Since then, he began going around looking into these oddnesses, got a little bit of a reputation for helping people out. While he was in no way what you'd call a demon hunter, he was the sort of person who could go and could do the rituals, could figure out the things that were going on in these instances. And that probably is what got him to the attention of the Percies. He was the sort of person that was exactly what they were looking for. Someone who was rather fearless in these investigations. And they also had the expertise to put someone with him to keep him from just, getting murdered. And so he was delighted to find them. It sort of answered all the questions he had had. and has probably been sent around as an adjunct several times during investigations. Preach is a bit more nervous than most people, admittedly. What it is that I see things that others don't. I understand what others doubt. But worry not, I'm completely professional. Totally professional. My moves. I do have the Connect the Dots, which is a start a session move. Lets me kind of look at the weirdnesses going on, and I get inspirations. I get hold. Lets me have inspirations as we go through the adventure. I have a suspicious mind, which consequently means I understand people are lying all the time, and I'm quite good at picking out when it happens. And I have often overlooked. When I act all crazy, people think I am unimportant or unthreatening or a little of both.
That's great. I think we're going to enjoy Preacher. Could I ask you then, in terms of history between Preacher and Jude? Preacher, you've got a list of possible background connections. Is there one that you'd like to offer Jude as a relationship that you have with him?
Would it be possible that I could hear a little bit about him before I choose my history question? Is that all right?
That's a very good point. Michael, are you ready to give us a description akin to what we just heard from about Preacher?
Just a second here.
No hurry, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready. I just I wasn't able to get to my screen until I finished that paste option. So I don't really have a lot in mind for Jude. I just, as you noted, as you observed, he was former parachute trooper, special forces, or of course the British equivalent, and I don't envision him having any traumatic back history with nasty monsters. He may just see this as he may just look at this as just like a very lucrative job. I figure he's retired and now he's just working as a private mercenary, and this is basically just he's just I envision him being the consummate professional. Really, he's not here to avenge the death of his parents or his wife or whatever, or he's just, well, of course he wants to keep people safe, but it's strictly a professional thing.
So
yes.
Does he actually believe in the supernatural, or does he think that all the things that he's heard about with the Percies are actually perfectly explainable?
I feel like he believed in the supernatural. I will say he's like a kind of a mainline, got a mainline Christian religious Protestant background, as many in the military do, and reinforced by the fact that monsters actually exist. But I think it's just I don't see his religious faith driving his career. If anything, I think he's a professional soldier first and foremost, and I think he's just I think it's just basically he's as faithful as any other person who faces death on a regular basis.
Okay.
Maybe
you've told us something about the Percies already, that they are well armed, that he has recognized authority, so he carries appropriate ID, which would give him a degree of protection from that heavy armory that he has in a very large black bag, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I kind of envision it as the authority being placed under the whole war and terror umbrella.
Fine.
At least for the public's sake.
Yeah. And the Percies routinely have a no prisoners. So this isn't about capturing monsters. This isn't about imprisoning them. This is about taking them down hard.
Yes, and that may be the root of the interdepartmental rivalry.
Yes, I think probably the Home Office and the Foreign Office would very much like to have some of these monsters under lock and key where they could be potentially examined. So that might well be where some of this rivalry comes from. Thanks for that. Just tell us briefly about Jude's moves.
Yes, so he can request help gear and potentially clean up from the pursuivants. So if things get out of hand and we need a good cover story, that could be helpful. He bottles it up, which means he can get bonuses when acting under pressure, but in any instance in which he's acting not under pressure, you're at liberty to apply a penalty to any roll check, depending on how many times I use that for my benefit. So basically, anytime I use that ability, Alan can take a hold and then hit me with it when I'm trying to pick ice cream in a grocery store and can't focus because I'm not under immediate danger, which I understand is a thing. Next, I have Leave No One Behind. It is basically an ability that lets me get someone out of a dangerous situation when I help someone escape. And finally, I have Tactical Genius. When I read a bad situation, I can use cool instead of sharp, which I think is important because I am not a particularly sharp character. So those are my abilities. And I'm also packing an assault rifle, a flak jacket because I want to be at least a little discreet, and a big knife.
So let's not mess with Jude then. Okay. What I'm thinking is that I'll run through the briefing that you've received from the Pursuivants. And then maybe we'll take a short bio break just to draw breath before we start proper. Does that work for you too?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll find the briefing. There is a tab, but just for the benefits of our millions of listeners, I'll run us through it. So we already know the Pursuivants track the media for patterns of unusual events, and what has brought you to Ripon are a series of those unusual events. A local newspaper article, Is This the Unluckiest Town in Britain? It's an illustrated article about the exponential rise of gypsum-related sinkholes. Gypsum's a mineral. Where it is dissolved, then large holes in the ground appear, and sometimes they swallow up houses. And there's been a very sharp increase in those in Ripon and its vicinity in the last few months. You also have a clip of a BBC local TV reporter reporting the death of the cathedral's dean. The dean is usually number 2 to a bishop, but because there is not a bishop actually on site in Ripon, he ran the cathedral. And the dean has died suddenly, aged 42. And as the reporter says, of an undiagnosed vascular condition described as a time bomb waiting to go off. There's also a national headline and article referencing Ripon, which is about the rise in antisocial behaviour in small towns and rural Britain. And this is particularly, there's a little boxed column with a picture of someone who is standing for election as the local police and crime commissioner. Now that's a civil post that oversees local policing. And it's pointing out that recently in Ripon there's been a growth in what seem to be gang tags. It appears that there is more antisocial behaviour and more recently some actual assaults. And that is the pattern of unusual events that has raised the Percies' interest and sent you to Ripon. I suppose if this was a TV show, then the pre-title scene might well show someone leaving a pub rather unsteadily and turning into a narrow, dark alley to make his way home. The camera follows him into the alley, and he pauses as if he's heard something. He turns round and looks at the camera as if to see if there's anyone behind him, realizes he must have been mistaken, turns away just as a large shadow looms over him. We see him spin on his heel, his eyes go wide in terror, and then we cut. And I guess we cut to you driving into Ripon past a sign that says, stay a while among its ancient charms. And I think if we take a 5-minute break now, I'll hard frame an opening scene just to get the ball rolling. Okay, so it is 2 after now by my calculation. Shall we say, just to make it a bit longer than that, shall we make 10 past the hour back in your seats?
Sounds
great.
Okay, see you shortly. Mike, have you found the link to roll for my party?
Oh yeah, yes, I can call up the email and get that link open and get my dice.
Well, I'll put it in the chat. It's quicker. Just occurred to me that I hadn't made that more easily available.
It's remarkably a loud cat. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Great. I just realized that my character's last name could also be his motto, straight on, or straighten or straight on, depending on how you pronounce it.
You can pronounce it any way you like. That's
huh. Here's my dice.
okay. We're back in the room. So I'm going to curtail history slightly because this is a one-shot. So what I'd like to do is to simply have each of you have a look at the descriptors under history. Tyler, could we start with you? Which one of those would you like to have as a relationship with Michael's character?
Right. If this works for you, Michael, I like old friends who originally met through a long chain of coincidences. The idea being that, like maybe we met even like as kids at some sort of, like camp, like scout camp or something. And I would have been strange, but you would have known me. Maybe even then you had that little kind of feeling of being protective. Then later along, we would have run into each other in college where I might have, been talking in my wacky way. But it was interesting one night at the pub. And then we meet again as we're older. Something strange is happening in a town, but you're still in the military. But we end up having to investigate it somewhat together. And it almost seemed to naturally flow that when you joined the Percies and I joined the Percies, there we were together yet again. And maybe we've done these investigations together before. Maybe we've been sent out as a duo in the past. What do you think of
that? By the Pursuivants or some other organization? Okay. Yeah. It makes sense that this isn't the first time we've worked together.
I like that.
Yeah. Looking at my history options, what if we were, and this is what if we're distant cousins?
Oh, I like that. That sounds perfect.
Yeah. So let's see that.
What chance that two distant cousins should encounter each other at almost every phase of their life, and then end up in the same briefing for the first Pursuivant mission you were sent on together? It's almost like there's a conspiracy at work.
There is an option where I could be keeping an eye on Stanley for the agency. So it'd be kind of funny if his paranoia were actually right on in that respect. Like perhaps even the one thing you're not paranoid about is in fact something you should be paranoid about.
Yeah.
But I was also trying to think of why the Pursuivants would want an eye on you, given that they're basically monster killers.
I like the family relation. I think that's cool.
Let's stick with cousins. If this was going to run and run, then a different kind of relationship might have legs. But I think this is very straightforward.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so you've driven into Ripon. The Percies will have sprung for a hire car, and they have booked you into a pub for 2 nights. If you need more than 2 nights, then you'll need to request additional support from them. But you park in the middle of Ripon, and you are in the market square, and you'll get a sense of that if you have a look at the illustrations I've provided. I'd like each of you. Could we start with Jude? As Jude looks around the market square on this summer morning, What is it that he sees that suggests that all is not entirely well in Ripon?
No birds around that spire. Usually there are birds flocking around that all the time, but not today.
Yes, I like that. No pigeons, no starlings, and perhaps no bird song as you might expect in a small market town. No, I like that. That's cool. What about Preacher?
As I'm, I know something's up here, and I'm looking around, and we heard in the reports that there was some graffiti gang tags, and I actually could see off to the side in an alley where someone has spray painted a tag. But what strikes me is, unlike something usual, like "fuck the police" or something, I see that it's written in some obscure language, or there's a bit of a tell of a something obscure there that just says this isn't your normal gang.
Well, would this be a good time to trigger your beginning of mystery move, Preacher? Which is this another dot to connect?
I think it might be. Yeah.
Can you see the roll for my party?
I have it. Mm-hmm. All right. All right, that's an 11, giving me a 13.
Well, tell us the good news then.
So, with a 10 plus, I hold 3. I can spend my hold during the mystery to ask the keeper any one of the following questions. I have a set of questions.
Well, would you like to ask a question now, or do you want to hold those in reserve?
I have 3, so I might as well get one out of the way. Let's do... my first.
Don't let me twist your arm. You can hang on to them.
Yeah, I think looking around and knowing that in the end everything's connected. It's all about how the forces are moving against us. So I think I'm going to do, how does this mystery connect to the bigger picture?
Okay. I think that it is fair to say that the Percies have become increasingly concerned around events in the north of England, where Yorkshire is located. And perhaps one of the reasons that they've sent you here for what on the surface could be a fairly innocuous set of circumstances may be that somehow this has a bigger connection to events across the region.
Jude, we really must keep an eye out. This is not simple gang activity. I believe that we're looking at something much, much, much larger, much more dangerous.
Oh, of course, but what exactly is the danger?
That is for us to discover.
So what will you do to begin your discovery?
Let's see. Michael, any thoughts? Do we want to go talk to people? Do we think we want to go and look at the places that some of these attacks have happened?
First, I think we should photograph the area. I'd like to document the absence of local foul in the and also you mentioned that there was in fact graffiti in the square. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's definitely capture that before. And note to self, we should probably talk to whoever cleans the streets around here, or whoever it would be, whose job it would be to remove the graffiti, because they're going to be most familiar with what tags have been in the area.
You noticed that gang tag as you were walking from the car to the market square, and in the center of the market square is a large obelisk. And there are loads of kids around the bottom of the obelisk, some with skateboards, some just hanging out. And as you kind of survey the market square, you can see some of those tags are actually on the base of the obelisk.
Once we go up to start taking pictures, I'm going to be giving them a real close look here. Could I perhaps investigate a mystery on that?
I would be very happy for you to investigate.
All right. That's not too bad. That's going off sharp. That gives me a 9. Don't suppose you're able to help point something out for me there, are you, Jude?
Yeah, let's see. Sorry, I don't have my oh, there are the basic boots. It's right here. Very nice. Yeah, well, first of all, let's see. Yeah, I guess maybe the first thing would be even something off the top of my head, just figuring out, like, noting where on the obelisk the tag is will help determine who could be perpetrating it. For example, is it at a height where, like, a kid could be leaving it there? Or,
Absolutely. You wouldn't need a ladder to reach this. They're all at knee to shoulder high, and they appear to be stencils.
Huh. Are they really complex? Is that why they're stenciled instead of
they
freely drawn?
Are quite complex. I suppose I'd describe them as circular and maze-like.
Like crop circle, like, perhaps.
Simpler than that, perhaps. Now you come to look at them, they do look rather like a circular maze with a pattern of running to a center. And what Preacher noticed around the outside are some sigils, for want of a better word, not in a known script, or not in a script currently familiar to you.
Nice. All right. So, are you helping me out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, should I make the first roll? I'm rolling plus cool, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
It's nice. 9 plus whatever my cool is. It is. Oh, fantastic. I rolled an 11, so I do successfully help out.
You're super cool. All right, so that gives me a 10. All right. Well, what happened here?
I think that it's fairly obvious that someone is almost systematically tagging the obelisk and particularly corners. So there are a number of ways out of the market square, down sometimes down narrow alleys and lanes, sometimes down some roads, but it's almost as if they are tagging corners and the obelisk itself. But I think that while you're doing this, because you're paying particular attention to these now, aren't you? You're taking photographs of stuff. You're making no. This isn't a very discreet. This is just photographing some quite tight detail. You're not just photographing the sites. You discover you have something of an audience. The kids who've been loitering around the obelisk are kind of standing there looking at you. What are you doing, mister?
You respond to the kids. I'm probably staring at these things and ignoring.
I turn back and say, we're doing our jobs. Kindly don't distract us from it. And then
What job's that, mister?
I'll turn around and say, just growl out truancy, or whatever the British equivalent of that is. Is it a weekend, by the way? What day is it?
Sadly, it is the weekend, so they have every right to be there.
Right. Well, in that case, I'll just
photographing the girls.
This is. Do we? I'll say something like, do we look like page 3 photographers, or I'll just because by girls I see that he's thinking that we're like taking like peep show shots or whatever. How old are these kids, by the way? Are these teenagers or even younger?
These are probably 12, 13, 14, so youngish teenagers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Which girls would that be?
Well, they're a mixed group, but being the age they are, they tend to segregate to opposite sides of the obelisk. So you've got a bunch of boys around one side, a bunch of girls around the other side.
Oh, okay. Well, well, are these girls here? These girls here now.
One of the boys says, "Are you really taking pictures for page 3?
No,
you misheard. Or are you here for the bands?"
But, we're here. Okay. I think he says. I think at this point I just say, we're here for the graffiti, and right now we're here to find out who's doing the graffiti, and right now my profile my initial profile indicates teenagers who ask lots of questions, who ask lots of unwanted questions.
I think that may shut up the boy, and the group of them race away to a far corner of the market square and disappear at the market square towards the spa gardens.
Mm-hmm. Let's hope I didn't just turn away a juicy clue, but I can't imagine what the connection would be. So for now, we'll just stumble on like as previously planned.
I'll glance over my shoulder. You always do so well with the young folks. I think my second question is, what can it do looking at these sigils and marks?
In your experience, I think probably a pattern of if you are jumping to the not unreasonable conclusion these have some kind of ritual significance, then usually they either ward something or they attract something.
Okay.
With that in mind, with that in mind, perhaps we should go to the local police, request access to their CCTV footage, and see if there are markings around places where the places that were sinkhole targets, if there were any markings there previously.
That's very good idea. And finally, what is being concealed here?
I think that you do not find this kind of regular marking of territory, other than if there is something that is defining some territory. So I think that you could conclude that there is something here that counts this as its territory and is reinforcing its marking of territory.
You have a very good idea. I think yes. Seeing what footage they might have, I'll move in close to you, and I think something is deciding this is its hunting grounds.
Yeah, that does sound like a plausible initial theory to work with.
Perhaps when we're speaking to the police, would you mind terribly speaking with them? They always seem to laugh at me when I ask them questions.
Well, I think that's for the best. In the meantime, maybe you want to, maybe you want to see. Oh, do you want to pursue the janitor line of inquiry?
Well, yes. That seems a good idea. I get along quite well with people who have to clean up.
Oh, that is our line of duty, isn't it?
Yes.
So what I'm hearing then is that Jude is going to go off to the police station, mm-hmm. And perhaps make some inquiries, while just fill in for me what you're going to do, Preacher.
I'm probably gonna, kind of do walking around the square to look at all of the graffiti, keeping an eye out, like if I see someone who street sweeps or not. And if not, I'm probably going towards, I'm guessing like town hall, or would be where they have the, people, whatever little office for general maintenance in town center.
Yeah, that's fine. As you walk around the market square, you are conscious that someone is watching you.
Oh, no.
And I'm about to show you her.
Oh, hello.
Yeah?
What a wonderful picture.
She seems to, she's sat on a bench outside the town hall. And as you are making your way round, as you come back towards the town hall, you're conscious of her kind of following you down towards the town hall.
As I get close, I'll, hello, ma'am. Spot of graffiti around, eh?
She looks at you, blows smoke in your face, and shuffles off towards the cathedral. She is she looks eccentric, but she is wearing a tabard, the kind of tabard that you associate with people who clean places, though tends to be inside cleaning rather than outside cleaning.
I'm going to make the attempt, at least, to well, excuse me, would you mind terribly answering a question or two? I'm here to try and discover why all this mess is being made.
I have to say that she doesn't seem to want to take any notice of you at all. She shuffles off rather flat-footedly out of the market square towards the cathedral. You will need to do something to stop her if you want to pursue this conversation, or give her a good reason why she should stop.
Madam, I'm more than happy to pay for a bit of information.
That will give her pause. I think that you are trying to manipulate her, aren't you?
I'm making that attempt. My charm is not awful, so let's give it a shot. Oh, I rolled a 10, so that's an 11.
So for a normal person, they'll do it for the reason you gave them. She will stop. She will put her hand out. What do you put into it?
I think I pull out, I don't know money increments completely, but like a 20-pound note.
Yeah.
Would this be worth a moment of your time, madam?
And she tucks it away and looks expectantly at you.
I was wondering, perhaps, have you? It seems that all of these markings are quite around the town square. Are there more outside of the square?
Yes, dear. They're all over.
When did they start appearing, madam?
Oh, let me think. It will have been. Probably the week after Midsummer's Eve.
Yeah. I think in my mind, I'm going through, oh my, there's all sorts of things could happen from that. But, and she probably could see it on my face. I imagine I don't hide things like that well. You look a very observant lady. Maybe, did you happen to have any idea who's doing it? Is it the kids? Kids can be quite nasty.
I don't know. Probably.
Am I reading off of her any... I mean, clearly she's a little eccentric, but She's kind of coming at me with a little bit of blank-faced weirdness here. Do I sense anything strange about her?
Yeah, I think you sense a degree of blank-faced weirdness. What do you want to do with that?
Phew. Well, she hasn't been lying to me so far, right? She's told me since I could tell if someone's lying.
She's told you the truth as she understands it, certainly.
I hate to go to like and investigate a mystery again. I
mean, the fiction has changed sufficiently, I think, to you are now investigating something profoundly different. It's, you know, the gang tags may have got you into this conversation, but this conversation's seen you somewhere different.
Okay, then I think I'll frame it with, you seem like you're, quite wise. Do you have any theories of what's happening, madam? And have that be intro into my investigate. Sound good?
Yeah, that works for me. So do you want to roll the dice and see where that takes you? Because I think that she is contemplating, but I think she'll need a slightly sharper question. Because what she will say is that, yes, what she will say is, my sister's the clever one.
Oh, well, anyone whom I could, clue me in a bit more on, well, all of this popping up all over, and I think you and I both will agree these are not your normal scribblings of children. And right after Midsummer's, well, that is an auspicious time, isn't it now, madam? Perhaps you could point me to someone who might know a little more about this?
I usually tell people to ask in tourist information.
I doubt that tourist information really talks up the graffiti art.
Oh, no. Mr. Lakeman will be very annoyed about it.
Mr. Lakeman, yeah. You say your sister, though, is quite clever.
Oh, yes. Very wise, my sister. Very wise.
Do you think she'd overly mind a visitor?
The trouble with my sister is that she doesn't like visitors. But I'll tell her you asked.
Oh, all right. Tell her I would be more than happy to perhaps take her to a lovely dinner.
My sister eats very sparingly.
Perhaps a lovely drink?
My sister has very narrow tastes in drink.
Oh. Yeah, I'm going to, I think, maybe pull out one of my connect the dots. Is this person connected to current events more than they're saying?
I think I can unequivocally say that you think that she is, because these are odd responses from a slightly eccentric looking cleaner.
So yeah, madam, your sister, where does she live, if you don't mind me asking?
She lives at long ago and far away.
Oh. Particular drinks, you say? What particular thing does she prefer to drink, madam? And I'm now giving kind of a stare.
She quite enjoys the fruit of the vine.
Ah. If if I were to perhaps offer the finest vintage that this town can provide, do you think that maybe she would be willing to have a quiet talk with me?
I'll ask her.
Thank you. We're staying at, and I'll tell her the name of the pub.
Yeah, you're staying at the One-Eyed Rat.
We're at the One-Eyed Rat, my associate and I, and I would very much love the opportunity to speak with her.
Have you come from London?
Well, yes. Yes, I suppose it's fair to say we have.
In pursuit of a good time?
Unfortunately, good times are rarely what I pursue, madam.
Then I must get back to work. That cathedral won't clean itself.
Yes, I thank you for your time.
And I think we'll draw that scene to a close there while you contemplate what you do. So, Jude, I just need to check in before you visit the police station. Do you have the assault rifle with you?
No. They'll be in the car.
So, yeah. So I'll assume that there is a large black bag in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Okay. So you make your way to the police station. It's an old Victorian building, as I think you can see. And inside, there is a single policeman, a police constable. And how do you want to come at this interaction?
I'll just greet him friendly. I won't be quite so crude as I was with the kids, of course. And I will ask if I can speak to the, I guess whatever the equivalent of whoever is the sergeant at charge.
That'll be me, sir.
Oh, great. I'll introduce myself. Extend my hand. Introduce myself as oh, there he is. State my agency. Where from? Is Her Majesty's Pursuivants? Is that the official title?
Yes, and okay. That's what it will say on your identity card. So that you show him this, and it'll have some small print at the bottom, or that says something like, "Well, what does it say? What does it say? You tell me."
Something, whatever in Latin translates to, "No monster shall roam free."
And I think probably across the top it says, agencies of the United Kingdom government should offer the bearer support where at all possible, or words to that effect. Yeah. Yes, and clearly he has never seen an ID card like this. So he looks at it and he kind of stares at it and he says, it gives all the appearance of being kosher. It looks like the real thing. He's never seen it before, but he believes it, I think. What can I do for you, sir? Just remind me, how is Jude dressed? We know he's not in full battle dress, but is he formally turned out, or does he travel informal?
Suit, business suit.
Very smart, sir. Very smart. Yeah. Suit you. Then I think a suit and a government ID card is probably more than PC Steve George has ever seen at the same time. So he's, how can I help, sir?
Well, I'd like to get access to CCTV video coverage over the last. How much time has it passed since Midsummer's Eve and the beginning of the sinkhole situation?
A couple of months have passed. It is that couple of months that show the exponential increase in sinkholes. And it's also in that 2 months that there's been a rise in antisocial behavior. And it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think, that the dean died. In terms of those are your briefing pointers.
Were we given a list of every sinkhole incident?
I don't think you were. I think the assumption was that you would be able to find that information locally. The algorithm the Percies use has flagged up this is odd.
Mm-hmm.
But there's they're quite a traditional agency. There's no replacement for people on the ground.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that there could be other sinkhole incidents that happened before they became numerous enough that we got flagged to it by the algorithm. So yeah, I'll
quite possible.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll say. And
I think it's fair to say that the Ministry of Defence have not given them particularly easy access to any satellite surveillance.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if we're known for basically monster killers, why would we need that anyway? So I'm going to ask for however long, like to the date, amount of time going back to the date that of the first incident that we know about, plus 3 months.
I think the challenge is going to be that the UK is one of the most heavily CCTV'd countries in the world.
Yep.
And even in this small town, that is man weeks of activity, even skimming through, checking every 10 minutes, unless you can narrow it down. Or give him some other way, or present yourself with a way to somehow filter it.
Oh, sure. I'll say basically just limit it to the incidents of the sinkholes that we know about, because right now I just want to confirm. Right now, my theory is that these sinkholes may be appearing in sinkhole locations, and then the sinkhole happens. I want to see if that's in fact happening. So we could limit it to just the locations that we know where we know sinkholes happened. We just want to say I just want to. I'm sure that the police here have already gone over that data, and I don't want to give the impression that we want to double check their work or imply that they don't know what they're doing. So I'm going to take care to steer clear from any insinuation of that.
You're on safe ground because there's no criminal activity around those sinkholes, so he doesn't actually have any records at all. In fact, most of the CCTV is concentrated around the middle, the market square, and the immediate surrounds. There's some on the way out to some of the more, the populous areas in what counts as suburban Ripon. Mm-hmm. But in an effort to be helpful, because PC George is very keen to be helpful, because you've got a suit and a very flash ID, which has the royal coat of arms on, for God's sake.
And Latin.
And in Latin. What he suggests is actually, if you go and talk to Jane Ackrill at the paper, I think she's been looking at where the sinkholes have happened, because Ripon's always had a sinkhole problem, but it was her who wrote an article about it a little while ago, and that is the article probably that's just scanned into your briefing notes.
Oh, great. Yeah, that is very helpful. So just to make sure I understand, there isn't blanket CCTV coverage in this town.
Not of every street. He can probably he thinks he can pin down one CCTV section where you can see at the corner of the view just where a bit of the garden has gone as one of these sinkholes.
Okay.
But certainly if you go and talk to Jane, she's probably got a map. She's very thorough.
Okay, that sounds
job quite difficult sometimes.
Oh well, only they have something to hide, of course. But I will thank him for noting that one location. I'll bookmark that in my brain, and if I need another line of inquiry, I'll make sure to make the request. But I won't ask him to do it now, because there's no point in having them do work if we don't absolutely need it. So, especially as he said, given the large amount of raw data that would entail. So
he can give you simple directions to the nearest one if you wanted to go and look at one.
Yes, that would be helpful. Sure, I'll take that as well. If it happens to be on the way to the local paper, I'll go ahead and check that out.
It's slightly out of your way, but not a long way. He points out where the Workhouse Museum is. And if you go about 100 yards or so beyond there, then that's where one of the sinkholes is, and you can just have a look in.
Okay. I guess as I'm heading to that sinkhole location, I'll go ahead and give Stanley a call and see how he's doing, what he's uncovered so far. I mean, this might be a good time to exchange notes and maybe meet up again at the sinkhole and then proceed on to the newspaper.
Where are you, Preacher, when that call comes through?
I think
it would have taken Jude slightly longer, I think, to get through that than what it took you to have your look around and conversation.
I realize I did not ask that woman her name or the name of her sister, which both are probably oversights of my part that I'm used to realizing, 5 minutes after they've left. And so I think I'm going to follow her advice, so I'm going to go and speak to the person at town hall who does the touristy bits. Langton?
Yeah, fine. Leonard Lateman, or Mr. Lateman, I think was the word she used. And indeed, at the ground floor of the town hall, I think you have a picture of that. The ground floor there is given over to tourist information. And there's a quite tall, white-haired gentleman in a very good suit, who seems to be going out of his way to make inquiries of how the ladies behind the counter are, and is everything going smoothly? Have we moved the tourist information here recently? Is that working well for you? And you'll recognize him from a picture in the briefing as Leonard Lateman, candidate for Police and Crime Commissioner and current mayor of Ripon.
Oh yes, he was in our briefing. I think I'll move up. I'm usually pretty good with the. He seems like he's a more academic-y type. Excuse me, Mr. Lateman, would that be you?
Yes, indeed it is. And who do I have the pleasure of speaking to? And he grasps your hand and shakes it actively, putting his other hand on your shoulder and giving you a sense of real well-being.
I desperately try to avoid cringing. And Stanley Preachel, I'm up from London. Here I am somewhere, and I start fiddling in pockets and I seem to have left it. I'm here with with an agency for the government. You're muted, my love.
Now, just to clarify, you are an irregular, so you won't have the same ID.
Which is why
as Jude.
Yeah.
But I think you knew that.
We had heard that you were having a bit of a little trouble, and I noticed all of the graffiti. I'm here to try and help out, maybe ending this sort of vandalism.
All the warmth drains out of his face, and he says, "There's no problem here. London doesn't have to get interested in this. Everything's under control. This is just youthful hijinks. So who sent you?"
Is he telling me the truth?
I think he is. I think he's genuinely concerned that as candidate for Police and Crime Commissioner, it doesn't help if as mayor of Ripon is becoming a bit a cause célèbre.
But he thinks it's normal hijinks. That is his honest thought.
That is his honest thought. I think that he might think that a bit of honest birching of young people might snap them into line, and it never happened during national service, did it? But beyond that, I think he genuinely does believe this is kids that just need to be brought to heel.
Sir, no worries at all. You see, I'm really here as a researcher. We are, in a way, an adjunct to the Home Office. Not Ripon in particular, but we're really looking into all that much. It's sort of the overall difficulties in the North. Kids' hijinks, that sort of thing.
I think that will assuage his kind of initial reaction, which was, "Oh shit, London are interested. Oh God," to a kind of, "Oh right, this is someone that I can probably schmooze," and he will proceed to offer you a tour of the town hall. Perhaps you'd like to join for lunch.
That is awfully nice of you. Would it be possible, perhaps, I just got into town and I haven't really settled in. Maybe, you're mayor here, correct?
Indeed, yes, I am. I'm very proud of it. This is a wonderful little town.
Perhaps, if you have time, I know you must be very busy, but maybe tomorrow, a quick bite?
Indeed, I will clear my diary to make sure that, shall we say, here at midday?
That sounds marvelous. Oh, thank you. Oh, this town hall is remarkable. And I'll kind of walking through, when was it built? How old is the town? Trying to get him to open up. But I hope I'm fairly good also at, I'm wanting to point to things that have happened in the town that are unusual in the past. Trying to shade it towards, the history, things, the oddities of the past people would love to come see, sort of things.
Yes, absolutely. He has an entire pre-prepared speech about the history of Ripon. Ripon's charter was granted by Alfred the Great, would you believe? He had no pen and paper with him, so he granted a charter in the form of a horn that, do you know, has been blown every night in the market square since Alfred the Great.
Every single night?
Every single night. The watch is set in Ripon by the hornblower, and it's a wonderful tradition. If you're in town tonight, you really must. 9 o'clock on the dot in the market square, the hornblower will enact a ceremony that has been enacted for 1,000 years and more.
That is quite remarkable. I do love tradition.
And he'll also, I think, if you're interested in local history, then you really should go to visit the Workhouse Museum. It's a fascinating insight into Victorian Ripon, and Michael, who is the chair of the Museums Trust, is a fascinating chap. What he thinks he's doing is directing you away from antisocial behaviour and towards wasting your time talking to someone about local history.
Gotcha. So I don't suppose he drops to me and, of course, there were the murders of 1705 or anything weird like that.
Nothing so obvious, no.
Okay. I thank him profusely. This is, I have to tell you, I've come to so many towns and seldom have I encountered a mayor who's so accessible and so very, very, very friendly.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. And if that were to crop up in any report you write back to the Home Office, then of course Ripon would be grateful. Is that the point when your phone rings?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm probably saying my goodbyes and, making sure I'm saying, it will definitely go down how much you're willing to help. As I step out and answer, well, good day, and answer my phone.
Hello, Stanley.
Oh, shoot. Something is definitely odd here.
Oh, what have you encountered? Actually, I'll ask. Perhaps we can meet at, and I give the location of the sinkhole I know about, and perhaps we could meet. Do we have time? Perhaps we could meet there and then discuss.
Yes, that seems like an excellent idea. Yes, I'll meet you right there.
Cool. I mean, very well. And yeah, sounds good.
So we have Jude at the sinkhole. We have Preacher going to meet him, walking past the Workhouse Museum. Are you investigating the hole before Preacher arrives, or are you waiting for his arrival, Jude?
I'll look around, but I'll start investigating. But I'm not gonna come up with any official conclusions until we get his sharp eye on the situation, of course.
Well, I think that, I think we ought to give you a chance to investigate a mystery, Jude.
Yeah, it's not my bailiwick, but what else am I doing around here?
Into a sinkhole.
Yeah, I was, I have to say, I was wondering if I'll just say I will not hold it against you if you take this opportunity for a little bit of revenge for Janice falling down during an investigation. That occurred to me as soon as we got into town. Anyway, oh no, that was Morgan who fell in. But anyway, yeah, you could get some vengeance on his behalf. I won't complain. But yeah, well, if I'm here, I might as well start looking around. So, is there by any chance, do I see any graffiti, or I wonder? I'm assuming the graffiti went down with the sinkhole, but you never know.
If there was any graffiti on the wall of the garden, I think the garden wall has fallen into the hole. Mm-hmm. And what you're looking at is I guess a hole probably 15-20 feet across and probably slightly deeper. And the garden and the wall and a portion of the pavement, the sidewalk, has gone into the hole with it. Do you want to investigate a mystery to see if there's anything of interest here?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I do when I see the hole is I envision the size of the creature that may very well have created that, just because that's how his mind works. But having done that, yeah, investigating a mystery, I guess I'd be looking for things like how far does the hole go down? How clean are the edges? Does it look like something imploded underneath, or perhaps was it something clawing? Are there like clear marks of
okay.
big giant
claws? Well, then if you roll plus sharp and check out the investigative mystery move, then you will have some questions there, and I'll interpret these questions as helpfully as I can.
Sure. My sharp is -1, so let's see what happens. And rolling. Oh, okay. Well, I generated a 3 total.
Well, you can certainly mark experience. And I think probably what you notice is that this does appear to have fallen in. It doesn't look like something pushed it in. It looks like the area underneath disappeared, and the surface fell in.
Okay, but so disappeared like it's disappeared.
Oh, sorry, no, sorry, not disappeared. That as you would expect with a gypsum sinkhole, some of the gypsum underneath appears to have eroded, leaving a void, and the surface has fallen into the void. Yeah,
okay.
No, yes, not disappeared in any kind of
not like creating a
funny way.
Yeah, okay.
But you know, there was a time when you were doing service in Bosnia.
Okay.
When you were investigating some tunnels used by people to get from one part of a town to another, and as you look into that sinkhole, as well as the pipes, the water pipes and the utility pipes that have been disrupted by this fall, you are certain that down there is what looks like a tunnel.
No. I'll try to get as close a picture as I can. I'll try to get as close a picture as I can from the surface of that tunnel.
That is going to be quite tricky. I mean, you certainly can photograph it, and I think if you take that back to the office and have them enhance it, then you probably would have evidence there's a tunnel there.
Okay.
But you're a practical man. That looks like a tunnel.
Is it human sized? Is it human sized like the tunnels I knew?
I would say that you could walk through it. You'd have to stoop because you're a big bloke. But I think it's fair to say that, yes, a human could get through that tunnel. It looks like it's kind of stone. It's a stone tunnel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so it's not like okay. So it looks like something's actually manufactured down there. Interesting. All right. Do we have did unfortunately we don't have anything like adventuring gear where we could just name like a convenient climbing kit that we of course remember to pack. I'm sure we could acquire.
You're a former para and a member of the SAS. A 30-foot climb down is but a bagatelle to a man like you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Me, the player, it figures I should probably wait for Stanley to get here, but me, the professional, probably wouldn't. Yeah, he'll go ahead and climb down there. If nothing else, a roll of a 3 would. I can preemptively indicate that maybe I feel very safe, even if I shouldn't be, perhaps. But I'll go ahead and give a climb down.
It's not like even if
I think probably.
Well.
Sorry, say that again, Tyler.
I would say even if I show up, it's not like climbing down a 30-foot hole is something I'm good at.
No, you'd just be there to call the ambulance when I inevitably fail and break something. But I'll go ahead and give it a climb.
So I think that probably it's all really about just staying calm under pressure. You know that you've been at the sharp end of military ops. So unless you kind of just have a sudden flashback to the last time you fell in a large deep hole and hurt yourself, I think you'll be fine. So I think it's probably act under pressure, roll plus cool.
Okay. Just a question about the bottled up move. Would I need to denote its use ahead of time, or is that something I can apply retroactively?
I think probably I will let you apply it retroactively.
Okay.
Because I'm that kind of guy.
Right. Plus, the hold is kind of its own check and balances, giving you carte blanche to give bonuses or penalties would be a good thing for you, of course. 7 plus my cool's 2, right?
So what's your total? Sorry,
I rolled a 7, and my cool's plus 2, so 9 is my total.
Okay, so 7 to 9. The keeper is going to give you a worse outcome, a hard choice, or a price to pay. And you begin to clamber down into this, but you realize when you're about halfway down that you can continue, but you will not be able to get back out of the hole without some help.
Yeah, that's a little embarrassing. So may I go ahead and apply my bottled up to make that a 10 result?
Yeah. So you've used a 1. So I have 1 in my pocket to hit you with later. Am I right?
As long as I'm not under pressure, sure.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. No, that's fine. So, yeah, that becomes 10. You make your way down. You have a second thought about, no, if I go to the right and down rather than left and down, I'll be fine. And so you get down to this, and it's blocked with debris, which is probably why nobody with a less practiced and expert eye has spotted it. But certainly you think that if you could move some of those stones and a bit of this old electrical trunking and a bit of sewer pipe, you'd be able to look into this tunnel.
Oh, now that I've got a better vantage point, now I'll start taking some photography, some snaps of the tunnel.
I tell you what I'll do is I'll give you a kind of insight into it if I'm going the right way. Oh, I went the wrong way. Sorry, just bear with me a second. Because this is quite a substantial structure. And it's here somewhere, he said confidently. Gosh, I put more potential illos in this than I... Aha, there you are. Okay.
Oh,
that's what you see.
Given that I don't know, I'm not at all a student of history beyond military history. Do I have any kind of sense about whether this could be Roman times or medieval times in construction?
I think certainly it's not modern.
Sure. Okay. But
yeah,
yeah. Apart from that, I don't know. Well, yes, is very interesting. So I will. I'll look up to see if Stanley has made it here yet.
It seems to be simply too inconvenient for Stanley not to have arrived. So Stanley has arrived.
Jude, Jude,
Down here.
Jude, you're in a hole.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time. I found a tunnel.
Oh, really?
I'll email the image to him, to Stanley.
Oh, that's quite old. Do I have an idea about how old?
I think I won't make you roll. I think that that your view is that it's, shall we say, early modern, so 16th century,
Okay,
maybe 17th.
And I noticed the cross pattern that's in there. And with my mind, I immediately think, oh, Templars. But if it's that modern, then if it is the Templars, now we are in the north, so there's rumors always that the Templars had found spots here. That's fascinating, Jude.
Yeah,
I'm tempted to see if this connects to any other dots.
Yeah,
Because I think we still have some in hand.
Well, I only have one more in hand. Yeah. Oh, I hate using my last one, but then if I don't use it, it's never any use. No, I think I'm gonna hold it. I think I'm gonna hold it. Because I think my first thought is, the real thing is, I wonder if it connects to the other sinkholes. How hard is it to can you get me down there?
Sure, that's
I think Jude thinks it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy. Especially with the -1 hanging over my head. I'll go ahead. Do you need any assistance? Do you want me to meet you halfway, or?
I was thinking more you could come up and lower me down with a rope.
The parallels. Sure, no problem. We'll just have to find some rope.
I'm not sure that you have an easy supply of rope.
I was gonna suggest that maybe we need to find some in some I don't know, local hardware store or whatever.
I mean, the alternative would be for Preacher to act under pressure to get down there, with you helping him by guiding. Put your foot to the left, stand on that bit of reinforcement.
We could certainly give that a shot. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Just follow my lead. I'll spot you, and
you'll catch me if I fall.
That too.
Good. Oh, all right.
But you're not going to fall.
God, I hope not.
So what I'd like then is for Preacher to roll act under pressure, and we'll worry about whether you need that help in a moment.
All right. Not good at this one. But I rolled a 10, taking it to a 9, which means I could use the help.
Sure.
I think you're right. I think that you need to nudge it up to 10, because I'm not sure you would like a hard choice.
I'll just say, watch out. There's some jagged pipe there, and the like. And I will roll I've rolled a 10.
We're rolling well today. This offsets
last time I let you bring your own dice.
I think, as I'm going, oh, is this pottery? Oh, no, that's just a stone. Yes. But, I make it down with hopefully minimal mess.
And I think you do. And you are looking approximately southwards along this very straight section of tunnel.
I would suggest perhaps we go down it. Can you clear it away? While you're doing that, maybe I can get a little bit of an insight to what happened here. Jude, if you don't mind clearing it, and I'll try and prepare something.
Clearing what, the passageway to the tunnel?
Yeah, where he said it was covered with some debris.
Ah, sure.
Yeah, you
yeah,
cleared enough to look in, but I think you'll need to clear a bit more to actually enter it.
Okay. It also occurs to me as I'm clearing it, it occurs to me that if we're gonna go tunnel exploring, maybe this is a time to bring our bag of tricks from the trunk of the car.
Might not be a bad idea.
Yeah. So
you want to run back?
I'm very interested to see Stanley do that twice.
Oh, no, well, he can. Yeah. I'll get the stuff myself, but I'll clear the pathway first. Actually, no. I'll stop because I don't want to risk Stanley getting a flash of brilliance and heading off on his own. So I'll complete clearing the pathway after I get our bag of tricks.
And while
so Stanley's in the bottom of this hole.
Yes.
You clamber back up. I won't make you roll. You go and get the black bag out of the boot of the car.
Yeah.
And throw that down, and then clamber down after it.
That's the plan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Stanley, I need some kind of indication of whether anybody walks by, and if they do, what your reaction is. So I think I need an act under pressure from you just to see whether you can stay discreetly out of sight from passers-by.
That makes sense. Ooh, I do not. That's 5.
So I think that shortly after Jude has left, a group of boys are looking over the edge of the hole, staring down at you, saying, "Mister, are you stuck?"
And not only am I, down in the hole, I've also started making some inscriptions on the edge of this tunnel. I'm consulting my phone as I'm doing it because I'm planning on doing some magic here. And so I sort of, oh, children, hello, children. I'm in a hole.
Shall we go and get a policeman?
No, I'm quite fine.
Don't worry, it's no trouble. And off they trot.
Oh, no, you don't need to get the police. Well, no, it's all right.
So I think that the clock is ticking. You get back, I think, probably, Jude, to find Stanley busy in the bottom of this. And you notice behind you is PC George. He's not running because he doesn't believe what the kids have told him. There's a man in one of the sinkholes, because that would just be silly. But he is following you down. So time is something of the essence. What do you do? And what do you do in the hole, Stanley?
I'm attempting to do a bit of magic. In particular, I am trying to observe another place or time, another time in particular. I'm attempting to see what happened here when this sinkhole fell.
I think that's very clever. So go ahead and use magic. Fire up the phone and see what comes up on the screen.
All right. Ooh, I rolled well. That's a 12.
I'm simply not going to play with you two again. So on a 12, I think probably you get the effect you want, and I get to do almost nothing at all. So I think what you will see is an eccentric woman with a cigarette, apparently massaging the walls of the tunnel. And as she massages them, you can see them begin to take on the characteristics, not of the stone of the tunnel, but of a much more crumbly material. And then she steps away, and you see from her point of view the sinkhole collapsing. While you think about that, I think that probably Jude arrives rather swiftly at the top of the sinkhole. Are you concerned that PC George is on the way, Jude?
As soon as I noticed him, I would have turned around because I'd like to keep PC George away from the perimeter of the hole if at all possible, and I'll just and I'll basically just like I'll just look, nonchalantly look back, and as I notice him, I'll just smile and say, "Oh, PC George," and then I'll turn around and walk towards him quickly but not looking panicked. Yeah, so it's thanks. Didn't thank him for the tip. That was very helpful, and see what he has to say about that, and what he says. What if he says what he's interested in coming out here.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know whether to believe kids, but you can't take a chance, do you? They say somebody's fallen into one of the sinkholes. In fact, the one I told you about. Have you had a look at it? Is there anybody in there?
That's actually what I and my associate are examining now. We're just taking I'll just say ecological analysis of the area, and I assure you that my associate's quite all right, and he did not in fact fall.
Oh, so he's with you. There is a guy in the sinkhole, but he's with you.
That's correct.
Oh, that's fine then. Right, I'll get back to the station.
Thanks again. And
now, given that you've got into this hole once, I'm not going to make you roll dice to do it again, because you know the way down now, even with your bag of tricks. So you're now both at the bottom. Preacher has had a quick squint into the recent past. What do you do, guys?
So again, can you repeat the vision again? I noticed that. I know it involved a sinkhole collapse, but
yeah. As you begin to clear, I was like, "Yeah, clear it away." I encountered this very strange woman in the town square. I would tell you, she almost seemed like she was enchanted, bewitched, quite vacant. She seemed odd, strange little woman. Talked about her sister who lives far away and long ago. I was trying to arrange a meeting with this sister, and I have to admit she did raise my suspicions. This lady, but I did a little, a bit of the old hocus pocus, and it would seem that it is in fact that strange woman who caused this collapse. She fell the walls, and they became all crumbly, and down it came.
Huh. Almost as if her touch triggered some kind of collapse in the structure.
Now, I don't know if... Well, you know our business here. I don't know if she is, in fact, the person or thing we're looking for, or if she is simply an agent of this sister. Long ago and far away is a rather odd place to live. So it makes me think that perhaps this is some sort of creature that is influencing this woman. But I may be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, it just occurs to me that that until now I didn't know anything about your encounter. I assume you fill in all the
I go ahead. Yeah, I drop information.
Sure. Well, did you in the vision? Did you see any graffiti at all? Any sigils?
Did I notice any of the symbols?
I don't think you did down here.
Okay. No. Again, though, I think the symbols are showing a claim to the town. I think that perhaps the symbols are indicating the territory of whatever it is that we're looking for. The sinkholes themselves may just be a product of the desires of, well, the territory holder.
Mm-hmm. But it's at least possible that the sinkholes are not marking where the sinkholes come if you didn't see one here. And if in fact if it's created by this if it's this woman who is the triggering agent, we at least that opens up the possibility that the sigils could have some kind of protective effect, which we'll need to investigate further once we get the chance to examine other sites.
The rather frightening thought is that perhaps the intention is to, well, sink the whole town.
Yeah, we definitely that's definitely what we want to prevent.
Yes, it's lovely. The mayor is very nice.
Oh, you met the mayor?
Oh, yes, a lovely fellow. We're having lunch with him tomorrow.
Oh, very well. Let's see what we can get into between now and then, or between then and now.
Well, there you are. While you've been talking, Jude has been busily clearing debris.
Yeah, I'd be helpful. Oh, right.
What are you going to do once the debris is cleared?
Yeah, I was going to ask if Stanley thinks that we should investigate now the tunnels and see if it does, in fact, lead to another sinkhole.
Oh, absolutely. No time like the present, and I will bring out my watchman's flashlight, the most awesome gear in this game.
And once I'm out of sight of the surface street, I'll go ahead and arm up with bring out the rifle, the assault rifle.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think I would have already had. Oh no, and also put on the vest because I don't think I would have had it on earlier. Because those things are pretty noticeable.
Yeah, that's fine. So, and you probably did have that big knife strapped to your inside thigh or somewhere where, you know.
Sure.
But so yes, so you're in the tunnel. You'll have to go single file. I don't know if this is a rash assumption. By assumption is that Jude is in front,
sure,
and that Stanley and his torch are illuminating the way past Jude. Yeah,
sounds like a good plan.
This tunnel runs probably for 150, 200 paces, maybe, and ends in a very old door, hundreds of years old. What do you do?
Search for secret doors. Sorry.
If only it was hidden.
Right, there it is. Well, does it? I guess the first thing would be, does it look like it's the structure integrity is solid enough that we could open it without it falling apart?
I don't think it's been opened in a very long time. I think that with a bit of effort, you might be able to just pull it open.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful, Jude.
Will do. It's just occurring to me, the player, that we probably aren't even allowed to open this thing because this is, I assume this is like a protected archaeological site. But we're here looking for monsters. So
remember that all found treasure in the United Kingdom belongs to the crown in the first instance. So you could say that it just belongs in the family.
Oh, the door itself, the entire structure, tunnel itself, you say?
Well, you are right. Her Majesty's Pursuivants.
We are. We're persuading the crap out of this. Yes, I'll go ahead and open the door and let's see what happens.
Now I'm conscious of the time. I'm not. If you're okay, I'm not. I'm going to avoid another break and play for another 20 minutes or so, which will leave us 5 or 10 for a bit of feedback. Is that okay with you two?
Sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. So you open the door. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you will find a spiral staircase going up.
Ooh. Up. How tall is that? Because we were down like what 30 feet from originally.
Yeah,
how tall is it?
The difficulty you've got is that once it will disappear in about 5 feet. You can't you can't look up a shaft.
About how long have we gone down this tunnel? About how far have we gone?
About 150, 200 paces.
So not very long.
And did we notice any decline?
If you were just because you've had some idea of the geography of the town, you're probably not close to or not far beyond the southern edge of the market square.
Okay.
You know, that the map I've given you covers probably 300 yards of a side.
Gotcha. So not an enormous space.
No, it's a small town.
Jude, I think we're going to have to go up. There's no point in coming this far without.
Sure. I'll go ahead and start the climb.
But perhaps before you go, though, maybe I could try something. We may be walking into the lair of something quite dangerous, you know.
Oh, well, yeah, quite sure.
Your rifle there. Would you mind overmuch, say, ejecting your clip, so that I may examine your bullets?
Yeah, I'm sure we've. I can only assume that we've since we've worked together before. I can only assume that you're gonna magic up these bullets to make it super cool. So yeah, I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, make sure you got the first one. Remember last time we omitted the one in the, you call it the chamber?
Yeah, the chamber. Yes, of course that was a rookie mistake.
Yes, it was so embarrassing. He just laughed when you shot him. Oh my! All right. And I'm going to attempt to enchant at least one bullet and maybe a bit of the clip.
I think that I'm prepared for you to enchant the weapon in the sense that this clip. I have a terrible suspicion that when Jude pulls the trigger, he doesn't let it go. So we're not talking about the next 30 monsters. So I'm content for you to enchant the weapon. Go ahead and use some magic.
Alrighty, that's my puppy barking. I think my hubby's home. Oh. The dice are loving me tonight. That's a 13.
You are fairly confident that you have made these both enchanted and more effective.
Excellent.
Do you want to get my knife too while you're at it, just in case?
Probably I shouldn't play too much with.
Fair enough.
We ask too much when we play with the fates that way. But it will. It sounds like give you the +1 harm, and it will count as magical.
It will. And you do have to bear in mind the phone's battery.
Right. And I probably have brought out little vials and poured things over it because I'm also an old-fashioned sort of magician. So the phone is. These modern contrivances, standard issue though.
That's fine. So having carried out this little ritual, you lock and load again. And what do you do, Jude?
I'll just proceed upward. And actually, is there any way I could ask? Is there any way I could fasten the torch to the rifle? Because it occurs to me that in the tight quarters of a spiral staircase, I don't know how much illumination Stanley's going to be able to project it up and ahead. If he can from behind, that's perfectly fine. But
I think that this won't be difficult. I mean, presumably you've got one hand at the trigger end, one hand at the barrel end, and it's not beyond the wit of man to grasp the torch and the barrel end at the same time. So I don't have a problem with that.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it will leave me. Well, I guess I may have had my gun on me. I was going to say it leaves me completely disarmed.
Oh well, Oh, that's right. I forgot this is a hefty flat. Okay, that's fine. I forgot that this is a hefty torch and you're ready.
In this game, no one takes the watchman's flashlight for light.
Okay, right. Okay, that's cool. I'll leave it as is then. Sounds good.
And you make your way up the spiral.
Yeah.
So Stanley, Jude edges round out of the light and disappears around the corner. You hear his footsteps going up. Do you follow him?
Oh yes, I'm trying to follow as closely as possible to give him illumination and to not leave me alone.
The steps are worn, not as if by daily traffic over 100 years or 200 years, but certainly when they were used, they were heavily used. And up you go. At a point at about 15, 20 feet, say, at about a point 20 feet up, you think, instead of the kind of rough stones that you've encountered so far, it feels as though you're now moving up the inside of a much more mortared and well-prepared finished stone. Do you carry on going up?
Sure.
And you will end on a platform. At the top of this, you've probably gone up, I'd have thought, in total 45, 50 feet. So you're higher now than when you started, is certainly the case. And there's wood paneling. And at one end of the wood paneling is an ancient latch. What do you do?
Stanley, shall I go ahead and unlatch this thing?
Yes, I think we're going to have to.
Great. I will go ahead and do that and slowly creak the door open. Well, yeah, well, mid speed creak the door open.
You anticipate my question. Are you going to creak the door open? Because it does creak, and it's heavy.
Okay.
It looked like just panels, but there's quite a lot of weight behind it. So you'll really have to lean into it, and it will go.
Yeah, given that the heftiness, I'll go ahead and just push it as fast as I can, but clearly not slamming it. And I don't think there's any way to avoid making noise with this, so I'll just go ahead and
we've got
power through.
So I mean, it's not like we're going particularly
right.
Okay, so you edge it open, and when it opens about so much, you're conscious that what you've got here, I think, is a depth of wall probably about 1.5 feet, and the panels seem built into that. So as you push it open, you have to push it quite a long way before it comes clear of the far side of the wall. Yeah, and you open it a crack, and you're in a lit room. You can see that the walls are stone, and around the walls are ranks of bookshelves, glass cabinets with glass doors, with books and probably some silverware, I think.
Okay, are there titles on those books?
I think that they're on the other side of the room, which is probably 15 feet away. They look like old books. I'll give you that much.
Okay.
Does it look like the room have people been in it? Is it dusty, unused, or is it fairly clean?
Not at all. It's clearly well used and well cleaned. There's a wooden floor that is well polished. You can see as you squint in, maybe a table or a desk just round the corner from where you are. You appear to be in somewhere that is used and maintained.
And you said silverware. Does it look? I mean, I'm guessing it's not like. Does it seem? And I have a little experience with this. Does it seem religious in nature?
Yes, it does. One would describe it as chalices and communion bowls and cups and stuff like that, and even some religious symbols, some crucifixes.
Jude, I think we may have stumbled into the cathedral.
Yes. Does it look like a place a vicar would live in?
No, it looks too institutional for that. I mean, for a start, the ceiling is a good 20 feet high. So it looks more like part of the cathedral. I think that's a good guess. Than someone's study or library.
You see, and I wouldn't expect a dinner table to be set out. And am I reading that right? That it's a dinner table?
No, I think we've got a silverware thing going on. So by silverware, I mean large chunks of ceremonial silver rather than a laid table. Yeah,
gotcha.
So probably that's more of a desk. There.
Yes, and you might even I mean, do you carry on pushing the door?
Yeah,
I think so. Sure.
I think I want you to act under pressure, just to see whether, as you're creaking this door open, you're aware of anything beyond the door other than what I've described to you. So go ahead and roll for act under pressure.
I've generated a 7 total.
So on a 7 to 9, the keeper is going to give you a worse outcome, hard choice, or a price to pay. You can hear conversation and people. You don't think it's necessarily in this room, but you think it's not far beyond this room. So there are people in the vicinity. Do you carry on creaking this peculiar door open?
My inclination is to say yes, because I mean it'll seem a little strange that I'm carrying a rifle, but other than that, we've got the magic ID badge that would give us ostensibly give us the rights to be wandering about here. Stanley, do you have any other take on that?
I am going to be interested to see whether the Church of England recognizes that badge, but we'll worry about it in a moment.
That's a good point.
We may have run afoul of each other in the past. I definitely think we'll have to proceed on. There's no point retreating, but I will kind of attempt to move to where I can hear this conversation.
Yeah, if nothing else, maybe this is the point where you should take the lead. What do you think?
I think I will at least kind of hush you as I move over to put my ear to the door, so to speak.
There's certainly room on that platform for you to kind of change places, and it wouldn't be difficult for Jude, because I imagine he's quite a bit bigger than you, to push on the door above you while you kind of look around the gap. But no, I would describe it as the hubbub of the hushed hubbub that you would tend to hear when tourists go around cathedrals.
Oh, so maybe like a little tour group.
I want to steer you away. They are not chanting.
Okay.
Though now I come to think about it, you might think it was chanting.
Yeah, I very well might, especially if I can't understand what they're saying. So I'm going to try and squeeze through the opening we've made thus far, and you may have to shove it a little further open there, Jude.
Yeah, I think because you are a much smaller person, he doesn't have to push it open much more before you step out into what you will quickly identify as the cathedral library. There is a double door at the far end of the room. One of those doors is open, and through that noise, you can hear from the body of the cathedral the sound of people milling round, looking at things and reading guidebooks. The room is well lit with large Gothic windows, and is lined with books and the inverted commas treasures of the cathedral. What do you do?
The panel that we opened, what's on the office or the library facing side?
It's a large glass-fronted bookcase that goes higher than the door. Looking at the floor, it's clear that as Jude has pushed it open, you've scratched the floor. So you don't think this door has been open in a long time, possibly since before this floor was relaid.
Which also implies that when she was down there, either she had some means of just going through the ground, which is not beyond the possible, or she came from the other direction. Still doesn't explain how she would have gotten out if I was looking at her down that tunnel. Or she has some other means of getting through this bookcase.
I can't fault that logic at all.
I think now is the time for me to use that last, especially for looking at time. When and where will the next critical event occur? As I'm looking across this, figuring these things out, the dots, they're not connecting. Something's wrong, Jude. This is what was supposed to have happened.
You flash back to the briefing package that the Pursuivants provided, and you skim read initially the article from the local newspaper talking about sinkholes. But there was a tiny little diagram in the bottom corner of the article, which showed sinkholes since records began in the mid 1800s. And they're all scattered about. And what they've done is to color code them. So 1850 to 1900, 1900 to 1910, 10 to 20, and so on to now. And what you see is a fairly random pattern until the most recent examples. And if you look at the last 10 years or so, you can see sinkholes spiraling in towards the middle of Ripon. In your mind's eye, suddenly it all makes sense. The next event will be here.
Here at this cathedral.
Here at this cathedral.
Oh, Lord. Jude, it's happening here. It's going to be here. We have to find that woman quickly. Oh, my goodness. If it's full of tourists, oh, my. This could be very bad indeed.
Right. You mentioned, who did you say? The woman you met earlier you were talking about?
Right. Yes.
Right. The cleaner.
That's what she called herself.
Right. So yeah, let's did you get an address for her?
She came here.
Okay.
It hasn't been more than an hour
far away.
Yeah, so the sister's long ago and far away. But
right.
She said she was coming here to clean the church.
Are you going to push that door open a little more so you can come into the room, Jude? And do you bring the automatic rifle with you?
Yes and yes, because I know Stanley may be a kook, but he's also a professional. He's a professional in his own way. So I'm going to trust his gut instinct on this and assume that the urgency is urgent. So yes.
So you're in the room. Do you push it closed behind you?
Oh, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, interestingly, someone enters the library through the door with a bucket and mop.
Through the door behind us.
No, the one at the other end of the library that leads to the main cathedral apse.
Oh, okay.
Is it the lady?
It is. Peculiarly, she is smoking, though it is illegal indoors. But it's almost as though the smoke is contained.
Huh.
And she stops and she kind of looks at you and says, "Hello."
And she's not freaking out that a large man with a rifle is in her presence.
Not a bit.
Interesting.
Madam, nice to see you again. I think we need
You can
to
call
talk.
me Duchess.
Duchess? Duchess. Of course, Duchess. Let's, as I move a little closer to her,
are you here to deliver the child?
Perhaps, madam. The child would be needed for what exactly?
The bargain. You're late.
I see, and you've been waiting quite some time, haven't you?
Since Midsummer's Eve.
Is that the reason that you've been opening up the holes? Because the bargain hasn't been struck?
My sister said I should come and remind you all.
I see. She's used to having the child promptly then, isn't she?
There have been a couple of misunderstandings over the years, but usually people sort it out.
I see. And your sister, she's not here yet. She doesn't come until the child's here, does she?
Oh, she doesn't come here. I take the child to her.
I see.
So,
and if yes,
are they in the behind there?
At this point, I think I might want to I might want to step in and say, I'm afraid the terms of the exchange have been altered. We'll need the sister to be here herself. We'll need your sister to be here herself to receive the child now.
Oh, I can act for her.
Well, I know you can and you have, but now we're going to need to we're going to need a direct transfer to your sister. It's on orders from our higher ups, so you must understand, and I do apologize dreadfully for the inconvenience.
Oh, I see. So a new bargain with you.
Nope, same bargain. It's just the details that have shifted a little bit, but still the same bargain. And I'm certainly not making a new bargain myself with you. And I look at Harold to see, I look at Stanley to see if he's like giving me any kind of like body language read, like shut up or okay.
I'm definitely giving you the no bargain, no bargain, no bargain.
Right.
But I'll say, Jude, I have a feeling that our friend here may be the actual representative that makes all of this occur.
I think I do understand. I understand that, though. I understand that. I just feel that as I mentioned, our higher ups may want us to make direct contact with the sister as well in order to expedite the exchange.
Of course, Duchess. Just to, could you perhaps tell us once again the details of the bargain?
Oh, yes. A long time ago, somebody called Wilfred wanted to build a church. My sister owned the land. And so he bargained with her and she bargained with him. And then they came to an agreement that every 40 years, you, that is Wilfred and everyone who came after him, would give her a gift of the most loved child in this place. But this time, I arrived and there was no child. So she got a little bit tetchy.
I see. And I assume that when you mentioned this to the dean, he did not take it very well, did he?
No, he didn't. He accused me of, and she thinks deeply, a child protection offence.
Modern clergy, they know nothing of the old bargains.
Oh, that's really, that it makes now I understand why our bosses were so adamant that we extend our apologies directly to your sister. Now it makes much more sense. I appreciate you for sharing that with us. They only tell us what they think we need to know, but knowing more it can always be helpful to for us to do our jobs. And that's why we'd like to catch up and settle our tab, of course, and get ourselves out of the red. And if we can do that directly to your sister, we can make sure to add our sincere and profound personal apologies to make sure that there's no hard feelings, that we can continue the future exchanges without the ugliness of what she encountered with the dean.
Jude, it may be that we have to maybe she can take us to her sister.
Would that be possible?
You muted, love.
I am?
No.
Sorry.
whoops.
Hold my hands. Do you hold our hands?
You're definitely the hand holder in this team.
I will take her hand, but I will reach over and grab you.
All right. We're all hand in hand.
But I will give you a look. Actually, as I'm reaching for you, I will give you a look that you recognize as we're going into extreme danger. This may be it, my friend. This may be the finale of us. You see fear.
Well, you know what? Okay, I see. I try to give a reassuring look that just remember our a look that says remember our training and all will be well, which I'm sure I've given many a times before. Now, what effect it has on you, who knows?
Do you hold his hand?
Can I operate the rifle one-handed?
You can with slightly less accuracy, but yes.
That's fair enough. If we're encountering what I think we're encountering, it'll probably be big enough where accuracy won't matter anyway. But yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll take his hand. Yeah, we're cousins. We're cousins. We're cousins.
Okay. And when you are all collectively holding hands, the library shimmers a little. And
oh, hello.
Okay. Got a picture?
Yes. I should have.
I think given that we are now at 5 to 10, I'd like you to epilogue, please, in turn, starting with Preacher, I think. How does your encounter with the Fairy Queen of the North play out? What is the medium to long-term effect, Preacher?
I think that considering our training and what we do, I think that when we arrive there, I'm a little stunned by it. But I imagine we try to take her own, probably foolishly. And I think we.
Moment.
Yeah, what's that?
I'm going to interleave the epilogue because from that thread, Jude, that's the start of this epilogue. Stanley's going to take them on. What do you do in this epilogued scene?
Sure. I'm glad Stanley was reading what I was reading. I'm sure he's worked with me enough to know that as the precepts of our agency are to let no monster roam free. I'm sure he correctly assumed that I was going to open fire as soon as we can, because I wouldn't see any tactical advantage to actually communicating or drawing out at this encounter any more than it absolutely has to. And if we're going to survive, the element of surprise is our best chance of it. So I probably would just start guns blazing as soon as we see her, and we'll see where that gets us. And also hope that we still make bullets with iron.
Okay, now my assumption is that you must have survived because this is part of your debrief. So, Preacher, you did survive. How did you survive? Did you kill the Fairy Queen of the North?
I think that, I think she is a bit surprised that immediately she is under fire. But, being a true Fae, it's not the simple thing of, oh, bang, oh, goodness me. Oh. I think we have that scene of immense quickness. She's the Fairy Queen of the North, so she strikes us with cold. I think we're both battered. I think probably her sister, the Duchess, will at some point. I love the image of the Duchess jumping in front of us to try and protect the Queen, so that she goes down. And as the Queen is raising up in her anger, that's when that burst of fire finally strikes at her. And I don't think we kill her. I think she simply gives up the claim. I think she, curse you for a foul priest or whatever. And I think she begins to retreat into the ice and snow of this place. And as we see an opening behind us, my imagining is that probably the preacher is badly hurt, and it takes Jude to get me out.
Jude, anything to add to that in your debrief?
I'm curious, was the Duchess mortal or Fae herself?
She was Fae herself. She's a knocker. She's a knocker. She can
of course
affect mine workings and the underground.
Okay. Good. Well, also I just wanted to make sure I didn't gun down a mortal, because that's what I was hoping to avoid. Interesting. But yeah,
so
I think
you do gun her down, and it's as though she sinks into the ground and disappears.
Yeah. Does she take down?
So anything to add in your debrief?
Oh, did she take down the cathedral with her, like as a final, spite?
No, I think that what you do drive her off, because I think there is a degree of surprise in this response. She's been dealing with churchmen for the last 1400 years. So I think probably you do drive her off. But as she disappears in that whirlwind of snow and ice that Preacher described, I think she says, "I'll be back."
I like it. And so as the end of our debrief there, I think Preacher kind of looks at whoever our handler is and says, we may want to keep an eye out 40 years from now. And just as a little tying up of loose ends, maybe we should look into who was Dean 40 years ago. We may find that there's a prosecution that has been left, open for too long.
I think that works very nicely, and I think that probably I think winter is coming is a fair point to finish on, and with that, I think I'll thank you for that. Before we do a bit of feedback, I'll stop the broadcast unless you have anything else you want to tell the world.
This was a heck of a lot of fun.
Okay, and I'll stop the broadcast now.